food has no animate qualities, but you can't stop thinking about it and you can't stop eating.
Diets are fake news.
I got really pissed off and I said, no, I got to figure out why food has this control over me. Overeating is really not overeating, it's over chewing. When you overeat, you're not eating food, you're eating feeling.
Hello, welcome to Mindset to Results. Today, our guest is Sora Vernikoff, a no diet weight loss coach who helps people stop dieting and finally make peace with food. She's the author of #1 Amazon bestseller Eat What You Want, Stop When You Want, and healed herself from compulsive overeating using a complete different approach. If you are successful in life but still struggle with food, this episode may change how you think about self control and weight loss forever. Hi, Sora.
Hi, Elena, how are you?
You're most welcome. Thank you so much for being on our show. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we proceed to the questions which I prepared for you today.
Tell you,
How
tell you a little bit about my background.
Yes, tell us a little bit your story, like how you overcame that overeating and what helped you to find this new totally approach and become so passionate about helping people.
Well, I was an educator in Brooklyn, New York, and I worked with really tough kids. I mean, really tough. And it took me many years to figure out how to keep them in their seat from hurting each other and running around the room and screaming and shouting. But it took about 5 years, and I got really good at it. And I saw that I had a way about me that I was able to then manage my class. One day, I was looking at my 35, 10-year-old fourth graders, and I said to myself, how come, Sora, these children who walk, talk, and hang themselves in the closet, they listen to you, but food has no animate qualities, but you can't stop thinking about it and you can't stop eating. At that moment in time, Elena, I had an idea. What if I could vacuum out all the extra times a day I thought about food? What would I think about? How would that change my life? And then could I help other people? And because I love helping other people, just like my mom, I decided that day to stop dieting, which I had done for years, where I'd lose the weight and put it back on. I stopped dieting and I decided I was going to eat any food I wanted. But there was a caveat, and the caveat was that I had to journal all of my thoughts when I ate because I was obsessed with understanding why I thought about food all day. And I knew that I had to journal. So every time I ate for years to this day, I journal my thoughts when I eat because that really helped me. So not only did I write down what I ate, but why I ate it, what I was thinking. And I did that for many years.
Oh, that is very interesting journal that you could learn so much about you, yeah, about yourself, and that in a dialogue you had. Yes, thank you for sharing. So,
Oh, my pleasure. Really, I always say that it's because of the kids that I healed myself, because the same process that I used with the children, I was able to use with food. So when I reached my weight loss goal, which I kept off for decades, I kept 40 pounds off for decades. And when I reached my goal, I knew, Elena, that I could transfer my classroom management techniques to food management techniques. And that's my program. I learned it in the classroom and I applied it to food.
yeah, we are looking forward to learn more about this. Your story is so powerful, and you healed yourself from compulsive overeating using classroom management techniques, as you mentioned. So, what was the real breakthrough moment for you that changed your relationship with food?
That breakthrough moment, Elena, being that you're putting it that way, was when I looked at those 35 kids who were really bad, really bad. And I said to myself, they listen to me and they're alive, but food is dead. Look, this Diet Coke, it doesn't walk, talk, or throw chairs. It doesn't speak to me. I mean, it's not a thing. Well, I got pissed off. I got really pissed off. And I said, no, I got to figure out why food has this control over me. No, No. And I got obsessed with figuring it out. I was obsessed. I admit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very interesting. So, what did you do differently from that day on after that breakthrough?
That's a great question. Thank you. I started journaling immediately. Every time I put food in my mouth, I journaled before I ate, while I ate, and after I ate because I was very determined. And then I began to see I began to see patterns. And based on the patterns in my journaling, I then set up a specific program. Don't forget, I'm an educator. I have 2 master's degrees in content creation. So when I began to see patterns, I actually started setting up a program. So when I ate, not only did I journal, but I put the food that I ate in the program and charted it. And then in 1992, I made my first business card and I made my program and I started teaching it.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. You famously say diets are fake news. What's the biggest lie the diet industry teaches people?
Okay, so for those people that are interested in why diets don't work, I'm finally going to make it really simple for you to see. I want your listeners to think of a diet as a clock. So let's start at 12 o'clock. You decide that you want to lose weight, you want to buy a new dress, you're getting married, you want to take a cruise, you met a new guy, whatever. So you say, okay, I want to get healthy, I want to lose weight. So you go online, you find a diet, or you ask your friends. Now, what is a diet? A diet is a group of rules created by 3 people, a psychologist, a marketer, and a nutritionist. They sit in a room and they create a diet that they think will appeal to you, but they decide what you can eat and what you can't eat. So what happens? You pick a diet and you start your diet. Now let's go to 3 o'clock on the place, on the clock. 3 o'clock. Yay. I'm good, good, good. I'm following the rules of the diet. I'm following the 12 o'clock rules. Okay, wow. I have high self esteem. I can follow this diet. But what happens, Elena, at 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock, you can't stand it anymore. Oh, you know what? I just want one more piece of bread, one more piece of cheese, one more cookie. So you start having this. Now, then you can't stop. So you diet binge, okay? But then what do? You beat yourself up for not being on the diet. But here's what people don't understand, that you did the only thing you could do to get the control back from the diet at 12 o'clock because they're not your rules. So you went in revolt of their rules. Of course you binge. They're not your rules. They're telling you what you can have, what you can't have, and now you want what you want. So you binge, you think you're bad because you can't stay on their rules. And then 9 o'clock, you go, okay, look at me. I can't stay on this diet. I can't follow their rules. I'm going back to the diet at 12 o'clock, but I know I'm going to binge again. And that's why diets don't work because they're not your rules. That's it. And then it's never going to work.
Yes, very interesting. So, the idea of eat what you want and stop when you want sounds almost too good to be true. What's the actual mechanism that makes this work in real life, not just in theory?
So, what I'd like to do is I'd like to teach your listeners. There are 2 techniques in my program. One is called the green technique and one is called the red technique. And I'd like to share the green technique with your listeners if that works for you. Can I teach them how to use it? Okay. So I want I want everyone to lift up their, point your finger on their right or left hand. Now I want you to pretend this is a piece of pizza. When you use my program, you say, okay, I want pizza. And I'm making it simple. It's more complex, but I'm showing you simply. Now, before you eat this pizza, you have to ask yourself 2 questions. You have to ask yourself, how much is enough and how much is too much? So I want all of your listeners now to look at your finger. It's a piece of pizza. I want you to ask yourself, how much is enough and how much is too much? So, Elena, how much is enough for you? Show me on your finger. How much is enough? I'd like point to it.
Like this.
Okay. So you say this is enough. Now, I want you to pretend that you're going to cut the piece of pizza and separate the amount that was enough and from the amount that was too much, which the program calls your marker. So let's pretend you cut it Now you have two pieces. You have the amount you decided was enough, Elena. Then you have the amount you decided was too much, called your marker. Now you can eat the amount you decided was enough, Elena, but you cannot eat your marker. Now, why is that? That's because in order for you to know that you ate enough, you need to see your marker. Your marker lets you know I ate enough. I ate enough. Now, let's say you say, hey, but Sora, I want more. So I'm going to say, okay, Elena, look at your marker and ask yourself the same two questions. How much is enough and how much is too much? So let's say you want half of your marker. You cut the other half, but you must leave a marker. The reason people cannot eat and stop is because they don't leave a marker that lets them know that the amount they ate was enough. And without having enough, nothing is enough, you can't stop. So you're learning how to give yourself enough, but the marker teaches you that. And then you eat the amount of the pizza you want, you leave over the marker, and you're good. You just ate and stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very interesting approach. Thank you for sharing. I
That's
will,
okay.
yeah, I will definitely practice this technique our after our episode. Yes. You also talk about food and boundaries. So, how does overeating affect your emotional well-being?
You know, overeating is an addiction. So let's say you have a fight with your boyfriend and you just are so upset and you don't know how to have a hard conversation with your boyfriend, or you don't know how to be quiet at the time to have a hard conversation later. What do? You go home, you open a bag of Oreos, and you eat the cookies. So, really, the Oreos replace the conversation. So, you weakened your boundaries because your mouth did not take care of you in a conversation, but you chewed to feel better. So, really, when you overeat and you're upset, you're chewing to feel better, but you're not using your mouth to speak or not speak in a way that serves you to move forward. So, compulsive overeating is what lets a person feel in control of themselves when they're upset or whatever, because they don't know how to deal with it without overchewing. Because, Elena, I want you to tell your listeners something. Overeating is really not overeating, it's overchewing. The problem is in the act of chewing for the control. So the food is the object that you overchew. So what the program lets you do is minimize the number of times a day you think about food, and it reduces the number of times a day you chew. Because what you're doing is chewing the problem, you're not speaking the resolution.
Yes, very true. And also, I noticed that when I overeat, yes, when it happens, you don't really recognize the taste. Yes, like initially you taste the food, but if you just in some thoughts, as you said, yes, like if we have some emotional stress and we overeating, we even stop understanding the taste, right, of the
Because
food.
it's not about, okay, that's a great point, which it's not about the food. Elena, when you overeat, you're not eating food, you're eating feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of looking at the feeling and sitting, let's say you're mad, let's say you're frustrated. So you're feeling frustrated. So instead of sitting with, I'm feeling frustrated, I think I'm going to journal about it. I think I'll journal about it. You go to food and you chew, and that releases the tension. But did you find an answer? No, because you didn't journal, because you didn't talk it out. And so you're stuck with the same frustration. So really, you're 100% right, because it's the chewing you want. The food happens to be what you chew. Some people smoke. Some people smoke weed. It's not the cigarette. It's not the food. It's not the weed. It's repressing your feeling because it's not comfortable to sit with. So you're chewing or smoking or vaping to feel better. But did you solve anything? No, no. So I'm a big believer in journaling.
Yes, and this was such a great what you that you mentioned that, because when we speak about habit, right? Like as you said that it is a habit to replace something. Yes, stress to do something during this uh, to if, how to say to overcome those.
It's a way to sit. having an addiction is a way to sit with an uncomfortable emotion.
Yes, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to say. Yes, to deal with uncomfortable emotion, and
Yes,
you're right. Yeah, that we cannot just tell ourselves that, oh, I don't want to do it, or I shouldn't do that, and what, as you said, we have to replace with something uh, positive. Yes, so when we identify that it is a bad habit, and it doesn't help, and it just harms also our
see, the
health.
funny thing is, I would have agreed with you 30 years ago, but it's not, habits are not bad because I had a friend, she once took a course and she said, Sora, for everything, there's a cost and a benefit. So there is a benefit to having a habit that maybe is not wonderful. There's a benefit. You don't have to feel, there's a benefit. You don't have to sit with your feelings. So there is a benefit. And then everyone who struggles with weight, you're always miserable about, your clothes or your weight, or you think, but the truth is that that's just a substitute for what you really feel worse about. So let's say you have a problem with your mother, and every time you see her, you go home and eat. Why not journal what happened with your mother and come up with a plan on how to manage your mother? Instead of overeating, which is your mother's never going to change. You're the only one that can change. The only one. No
Yes.
one changes. You can't fix anyone.
Yeah, so you said very right that we do journaling. We're replacing, let's say, not bad because
It's not bad. It's actually useful. Useful.
everything has positive and negative at the same proportion. Yeah, so what, let's paraphrase this, that if we have something that, for example, impacts our weight and we don't want it to happen, like it contradicts our goals, let's say it this way. So we cannot just cut that habit and say, okay, tomorrow I stop eating sweets or I stop eating chocolate. We cannot cut it. We have to replace this. And what I liked is you suggested to replace it with the new habit that is journaling, where you
Right.
can put your thoughts out of your head and free space in your head, and only from this you will feel better when you write and not keep everything in your mind. Yeah.
You are 100% right. Nobody can run away from overeating. There's no running. I'm going to tell your listeners, there's no running away. So you just have to find a way to make peace with it. And even to this day, at night, before I go to bed, I do what's called a brain dump. I just make a list of everything on my mind that happened that day. And then I can go to sleep because I put it all on paper. I think it's very important to get everything out of your head. I'm a big believer in that because can you imagine you're like on a hamster on a wheel and you must get it out of your mind. You must. It's just, I think if somebody really wants to become their own source of happiness, their own source of well-being, you have to understand how your mind works. If you don't understand how your mind works, how can you be your best friend?
Yes, very good. Really, like this habit is just must because we live in such a busy world. So much information. It is like highway. Yes, we just wake up and mobile, and people calling. So much information. Like our mind just experiencing like this highway, 6 lines, like cars going different ways with high speed. And it is really very important to put time for yourself. Yes, and as you suggested, to write your thoughts, you will know yourself better, you will understand your self talk, you will see what the same thoughts are the same again and again, and how they affect your how you feel, how you act, and your results. So you will start seeing the relations between your thoughts and your results, and this is how you can understand that if I want different results, I have to change those thoughts. Yes, so it is so much in this, like behind even topic which we speak today about, but it is really such a great habit which you mentioned today. Yes, thank you. Many high achievers are extremely disciplined in business but feel out of control around food. So the question is here that why does willpower work in some areas of life but fail so badly when it comes to food with eating?
Well, discipline in business is conscious. For example, I have a daily plan, and every night before I go to bed, I write my whole day. I divide my day into 3 parts: call, email, so it's all laid out on a piece of paper. But the problem with food is that it's not consciously controlled. You cannot get up in the morning and say, I'm only going to eat 3 meals a day. I'm never going to think about food between then, and I'm going to eat what I say I'm going to eat. When you're struggling with a weight problem, you do not have conscious control over receiving your food thoughts from your subconscious, which is 95% of your mind. So the way I like to describe it, and it's actually in my new book, my next book, is that your subconscious is 95% of your mind. But guess what? It's like the stock room in a department store. You know that the refrigerator that you want is in the stock room, but you can't see it. And all of a sudden, you say to the person in the store, I want, see if you have another pink refrigerator in the stock room. So he calls up to the stock room. Now that stock room holds all of your food thoughts. You can't see them, but guess what? And they're 95% of your mind. So what happens is that cookie comes down from that dark subconscious. It comes down into your 5% conscious, and it starts in cookie thought, down the escalator, just like in the store. Cookie thought. You can't stop it because you don't have conscious control to stop it. But the good news is my program lets you stop it.
So, would you like to share maybe one tip, like how to stop those thoughts? If you just sometimes it happens to me, I'm looking for chocolate. I know that I want to have a chocolate now, and I would go and find the chocolate, or if I don't
Okay.
find, I go buy it. So, how to stop that process?
All right. First of all, Elena, when your chocolate thoughts start coming, say, hi, chocolate thoughts. Hi. Instead of fighting them, which most people do, instead of fighting them and saying, no, 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 say, hi, chocolate thoughts. Welcome. Because it's welcome. Then get your chocolate and then use the green technique. The reason you are afraid of chocolate is because you can't eat and stop. But if you use the green technique, you can always stop, because you decide how much is enough, how much is too much. You eat the amount that's enough, but not your marker. The marker lets you know you had enough. So let me give you an example. You look beautiful in orange. Let's say you say, okay, I'm going to go to the store and I want another orange suit. So orange suit becomes your marker. That's enough. Now you go to the store, you look all around and you don't see an orange suit, but you see a gorgeous pink suit. You go, oh my God, this suit's so gorgeous. I think I'm going to buy it. Was the pink suit enough? No, because you wanted an orange suit. So the pink is not enough, but the orange would have been enough because orange was your marker. So you can have all the chocolate you want all day. I lost my weight by eating chocolate most of the day, but you must decide how much is enough, how much is too much. You cannot eat your marker. Now, if you're having a whole candy bar, just scrape off a little. So let's say you want the whole bar, just scrape off a little under your nail, but you must have a marker. Because without a marker, Elena, nothing is enough. Of course, you're not satisfied. Of course.
Yeah, so as I understood, it is just more psychologically that you tell yourself initially how much is enough. So when you get to there, psychologically, you already program yourself to know that it is enough. And when you start practicing this, this is how you will start feeling that it is enough. Like it is like
Okay,
reconditioning yourself.
that's 100% right, but you left out an important part. It's a physical exercise that shows you in a physical way enough and too much. You must have the physical marker. You must separate in front of you enough and too much. You can't just do it in your mind. No.
Yes, this is really great. I like this technique because when we tell ourselves that, oh, I shouldn't do that, and then we do, we can feel guilty, or we can do that. We can, if we limit ourselves, then our subconscious acts opposite. Like more we limit, more we want to do that, right? Because we don't like to be limited. So again, this is all psychologically, but
You know, you just said something so important. You see, look what you just said, Elena. People are afraid of chocolate. Chocolate was my enemy. Now it's my dear friend. The thing is, you're allowed to think of chocolate all day. You have my permission to think about chocolate all day. But if you don't learn how to eat and stop, the chocolate will control you. So look what you said. there's a part of you that doesn't feel that you're worthy of the chocolate. You see, part of the problem with overeating for women is they don't feel that they can have what they need. And when you eat and stop and always have enough, what you're saying to yourself is, I don't have enough chocolate. I'm enough. I deserve this chocolate and I can eat and stop and I'm enough. So I'm very passionate about the green technique.
Yes, yes, I can see its power. Yes, because you tell yourself that it is always there, right? You say
Right.
I can
You
have it
see,
every time. Yes.
you know what? Also, when you have an oppressive mind about food, you don't think that chocolate's always going to be there. But when you know you can eat and stop and you can always give yourself enough, let me tell you something, Elena, enough is always there. Enough is always there. You don't have to worry, oh my God, if I don't have this chocolate now, I'm going to starve. I'm never going to have chocolate again. No, because you're going to go get another chocolate bar and you're going to decide how much is enough and how much you're in total control.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. It is really powerful technique. Again, I will start using it right after our episode. And yes, who listening to us also share with us your results and how did you use this technique. I'm sure that it will help so many people. Yes, and what else beyond that technique? If someone listening to us and has tried everything, diets, programs, willpower, discipline, and still keeps rebounding. What are the first three practical shifts they should make starting this week?
You know, that's such a multi-layered question because if someone's been dieting their whole life and not being successful, of course you're not successful. They're not your rules. I mean, and let's say you take injections, they're not your choices. You're putting a needle in you,
Mhm.
or you get the surgery where you cut your stomach and then you're lit. They're still going to tell you to monitor what you eat. You still can't eat and stop. So, as they say in America or in New York, I don't mean to brag. But I'm not saying this to brag, but unless you try my program, you can't eat and stop. So if you tried my program and it doesn't work for you, and you tried dieting and it doesn't work, there's just, I think you should keep a journal. I think you should keep a journal. Why am I so out of control to food? Just ask yourself, write that down. Do you know in 40 years, I never read my journal? I never read it. I just write. So the first thing I recommend to this person is take a look at what your mind is thinking. Become aware of your patterns, your thought patterns, and why you have this, food. Also, when you sit at the table, try to eat at the same time. Try to eat at the same time because that'll regulate you in your day. So if you know you want to eat breakfast at 8, the next time you eat is 11:30, 12, then you have a snack at 4, and then you eat dinner at 6. Try to regulate when you eat so you have some control. So you have some control. And then a way to get very bored with eating, which is always my goal, the way to get very bored with it is always sit at the same place because then you can concentrate more on your food because where you sit gets boring. Always use the same color plate because then the plate gets boring and you can concentrate on what you're eating. And always use the same knife and fork and the same color napkin because that gets boring. So watch this. You're sitting in the same place. You're using the same plate, the same color knife and fork, and the same color napkin. Boring. But then you can look at what you're doing, which is eating. And then that's going to slow you down and make you see eating in a whole different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so be more mindful. Yes, what you want to say, be more mindful about eating. So when you eat, think about food, not think about other things which can attract
Right.
your attention, and then you just eat and lose control over what.
Correct. That's very well put, Elena. Yes, thank you.
Yes, and looking back at the hundreds of people you helped, what separates the ones who finally became naturally thin and peaceful with food from ones who keep repeating the same struggle?
That's an easy answer. It's how much you want something in this life. It just really comes down to how much you want something. If I want something, I'll stop at nothing. I'll just stop at nothing to get it. But if I'm really not committed, how committed are you to healing? I don't think of a food problem as a food problem. I think about it as I had a vision once, and I thought to myself, when I was born, I didn't have this mind that I was eating chocolate all day. What was it that made me go to chocolate all day? And now I want to go back to when I was born. So I'd like to think that when God comes for me, that I changed my way of thinking, that food is no longer controlling me the way it did. So what I'm going to say to your listeners is, how much do you want to be thin and healthy without dieting? It's really up to you. How committed are you? I'm like a committed person. When I commit, I commit. But I'm not saying it's easy, Elena, but I'm saying it's a commitment.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, again, we come back from mindset to mindset, right?
Everything is mindset, everything.
That is what our podcast is about. Yes, everything is mindset and decision. Yeah, commitment, decision, irrevocable decision. When we decide something and we know that we are not going to change our decision, we are going to do whatever it takes to get to the goal which we set. Yes, so this is, yes, it is determination, commitment, consistency. These are very powerful qualities which will determine our results. And everything else is just coming as tools, but within us that strength and that vision and goal why we want to do that, right? In everything what we do, we should see a big why. That why, when it is big enough, it will give us that internal inspiration. Yes, and when we see that picture, because that picture should be really very big for us, so that picture will give us that fuel to overcome our these limitations, right, and our
Well,
habits.
I mean, I agree. You said that extremely well. And, I have a few sayings. I ended my book with a saying because I'm obsessed with sayings. And how I end my book is, inch by inch, anything's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. I also have another saying, which is, hold the vision, trust the process. So I'm very process driven. And I also know that all I'm responsible for is what I say I'm going to do that day. Everything else is the future. What I'm all about staying present. The problem is people get upset with themselves because they're trying to control their future. No, all you have to do is what's in front of you. That's it. That's it.
Yes, thank you so much. And it was Sora Vernikoff, amazing guest at our podcast. Thank you so much, Sora, for your insights. I'm sure that our guest got so much value from this episode, and we will put the links to your book and other social media, how people can contact you in description. So put the likes for Sora, and let's meet again for our future episodes.
Thank you, Elena. This was wonderful. Thank you.